Hi, I'm Tim, and this is the Viltrox Speedbooster, which lets you adapt EF lenses to an MFT mount. And this was the natural way to go back when I had my Canon 50, because I could adapt EF lenses to my newly bought GH5, which isn't new anymore, and put them on my M50. But now that I sold my M50, and way before I sold it, I realized that this is not the best route. A, because this Speedbooster actually wobbles when it's connected to the GH5, and it means that the lens detaches in the software, which then means the camera shuts off, which is really weird. It didn't happen on the Viltrox Speedbooster I had on my Canon 50, and EF lenses are just too big. So today we're going to talk about why the best MFT lenses are actually Micro Four Thirds lenses, native lenses, and I'll be coming at it from a budget perspective because MFT lenses can also be affordable. We're going to start with the 12-200 by Olympus. Jack of all trades, master of none. This lens is an army Swiss knife. I mean, from 12-200, what other mount has this insane focal length? Just think of the optics. But with it comes some drawbacks. The first one is actually the size. You see, when I did my shift from EF lenses to MFT lenses, this one the first one I bought because I wanted to see what all the hype is, because I heard MFT lenses are really good. So I bought this lens just as all the other lenses secondhand, and once it arrived to my doorstep, I compared it to my EF lens and actually liked the optics, I liked the size, it was good. But then I got two other MFT lenses secondhand as well, and I was shocked by their size. The 20mm and the 42mm, coming up later in the video, they were really small. Then I realized this lens is actually a really big outlier in the MFT world because it's just huge. You can feel it in your bag, you can feel it in your pocket, you can really feel it everywhere. And the really sad truth about it is that although it's 12-200, I only use the 12. I don't need the 200, I don't need all the coverage. I perhaps used it once in a protest photo shoot, and I probably could have done best without it. This lens is what I use for my talking heads for a long time now, over a year, and it's been a workhorse. But let me tell you, I would actually prefer a smaller lens. Yeah. This naturally leads us to two alternatives, one of which I'm actually considering buying instead of my 12-200. The 12-35mm f2.8 by Panasonic and the 12-40mm f2.8 by Olympus. Both lenses offer a 24-70mm focal length, with the Olympus being a wider reach towards the 80mm, which is awesome. And the Olympus also has a manual focus clutch, which allows you to go from manual to autofocus quite easily. It's really good, the manual focus from out here compared to the 12-35mm. You can also buy the 12-35mm, the second edition, a lot cheaper than it used to be because there's a newer version now that doesn't really add anything above the old version, so make sure you look at that as well. And if stabilization is something that matters to you, buy Panasonic for Panasonic and Olympus for Olympus, because the stabilization of the lens works in conjunction with the IBIS of the camera, but only if it's the same system. Olympus and Panasonic hasn't sorted it out, or probably never will. The third alternative that I really want is a new addition to the MFT world, the 9mm f1.7. This is a natural choice for me for video because I'm just using the 12mm and the 12-200 for video. And it's really good because it's also rectilinear, so although it's very wide, it doesn't have that fisheye look, that distortion you have. And even though you could have some barrel distortion, you can fix it in post. It's really negligible. Also, because I'm doing photography and I'm shooting myself doing photography, I can take the GH5 in a smaller package, and because I'm doing it at night, the f1.7 would really work out and really be great. So I'm planning to using mostly on video because for photography, 18mm is too wide for me because I'm doing street photography. I'll just have to walk and be up people's noses for that. But I would hold on a bit on buying it secondhand because it's quite new, so the price still fluctuates. I'm waiting for it to go down a bit in price so I can buy it secondhand for myself. So just wait a little longer. If you've enjoyed the video so far, give it a like because photography is fun, but it doesn't have to be expensive. This leads us to the next lens, which I actually use mostly for photography, and this is a workhorse. The 20mm f1.7 by Panasonic. This lens is a pancake lens and can make any package, especially my GX9, a very small package that you can just take in the bag with you. The downside is the autofocus isn't that good, even in the second edition of the lens, so we just suggest you buy the first one because the prices are really low. This is a photography power horse, the sharpness is incredible. You can't really go wrong with it, just look at the size. As for video, don't really count on it unless you're pre-focusing. I try to vlog with it and yeah. This was a mistake. This leads us to my all-time favorite, which films my hands right now on this small overhead rig. 42.5mm f1.7 the Maestro. This lens is 42.5mm, which is a funny focal length, but it translates to 85mm, which is a portrait focal length. One of my latest favorite focal lengths in street photography because I've been using it a lot. This lens is also really good in video because it has autofocus, which is really good and usable. Just the 85mm itself is kind of odd, but that's not the lens's fault. The size is very small, as you see, and as all the lenses here, it's a bit of a mixture between plastic and metal. It also has IBIS, which is really surprising. There's no real switch for the IBIS, but there is IBIS here, and the size to performance ratio here is incredible. The price is really good as well. This lens is something I'll keep using in street photography because it just really doesn't disappoint. You can't really go wrong with this lens, trust me. And the last lens on this list is the 25mm f2 by TT Artisan. This lens is pretty small and has metal build, and it's mostly manual. I've included here mostly because it's the most affordable option you have today for a new lens that is manual, intended for zone focusing. This is the cheapest one I found. I think it cost me 60 bucks. I'll put the price here, and of course everything is linked down below. And this lens is intended for zone focusing, a video of which I'm working right now, so make sure you subscribe if it's something you want to see. I haven't used it a whole lot, but so far I really like the quality. So what are some of your favorite MFT lenses? Let me know down below that like button. And if you want to adapt vintage lenses like this Helios, you can check my video here when I'm talking about how you can adapt it without actually using an adapter, this one. So I've been Tim, and I'll see you next week. Bye!